You guys ready? You guys ready? Hi. How are you? Awesome. I can't see you anymore, but all right. Well, thank you all for coming out today. And welcome to the cutting room. My name's Laura Whitmore. I'm here with Backstory Events. We produce a series of live-streamed interviews, mostly broadcast here from the cutting room. So if you like what you see today, please check out our website at backstoryevents.com, and you can find more great events like this. So today we are so excited to be talking to the Bellamy brothers about their new book, which I just finished, so I have a lot of questions for them. It's called Let Your Love Flow, The Life and Times of the Bellamy Brothers. So without further ado, I'd like to bring out Howard and David Bellamy, the Bellamy brothers. Hey, thanks.
Thank you. Great to be here.
This book's out today, right?
Yes,
Today.
that book's brand new.
It's brand new. Hey, so I read your book. It chronicles like your whole life and all the craziness that went on. Why did you guys decide that now was the time to write this book?
Well, we were afraid if we waited too much longer, we might not be here to tell it.
And the story's been told in wrong version several times, so we just decided to tell it like we lived it. And also, we wrote this book because we're sitting around with people all the time, like at dinner and on tour and stuff, and everybody's telling road stories, and somebody says, hey, you should write a book. And they've said that for 40 years now, so we did. We finally wrote it. Yeah.
And there's a lot of stories in there. And,
Yes.
and I actually really love how the book is sort of written in just your words, first person.
Right.
So how did you guys go about that? Did you just like sit there telling a story to somebody, or how did that work? The whole creation of the book.
It ended up that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Initially started, David had compiled a lot of stories together, and we got pitching stories back and forth, and not ever having done a book before, it's a lot different than writing a song. Like 2 years difference. We just kind of, and we toured so much that we kind of ran into a wall. We just didn't have time so much. So we eventually got this gentleman in Nashville to help us compile it and put it in an order, in a sequence that made sense. That's the hard part. And so it took a couple of years to do that.
It always takes longer than you think it will.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes, it does.
So in the book, you talk about a lot about your childhood and your younger days and how you were kind of these crazy renegades. And I thought about it a bit from the standpoint of, it seemed like you had a really safe place to go back to. And do you feel like that was the reason why you felt like you could just really go out there and pursue what you did?
In a way, I guess it was. I mean, I don't think at the time that it kind of dawned on us. But in a way, I think we always knew we could run back home. And so, and we did that a lot. And we lived there at the ranch, for most of our life, and still live there now. We moved back there. We only lived in L.A. for like 5 years. But the rest of our career and our life, we've always lived at the ranch. But yeah, our parents were really great people, and they put up with us. So.
They had to be, yeah.
Yeah, actually, when I was reading it, I was thinking, man, if I was their mother, I would have been pulling my hair out. But your parents seemed so patient.
Well, our dad was a musician, and he'd been in the war and gone through a lot of hard times, and when he was never able to pursue his careers. I don't think he ever realized you could make a living playing music.
Right.
But he came on. He was basically a rancher, but I think when we started in that direction, he kind of was living vicariously through us secretly, And he, when we would stray too far, he would let you know, but he was more lenient than you would expect him to be.
Yeah, I could see that. So I like how you guys have always kind of injected this kind of fun or sort of a wacky sense of humor into your music and your shenanigans. Were you always like that as a kid? Like, where did that come from? Like,
Well, our family has always had an unusual sense of humor. We grew up kind of around it, you know, and it was normal to us. And
we thought we were a normal family until we got out in public.
we started going places and going to school and stuff, and you know, our mom would come to school and they'd hear her talking, and people even from where we are would look at her like, because she had, I think I told the story, and she had her own language, and so she would say things that nobody else would say. We thought it was a part of the English language, but it wasn't, of course.
We look in Webster's, and there was no definition for some of our words.
Yeah. So, you know, we grew up around a lot of interesting, and you know, people, when we started to cut records, and we'd do interviews, and people would say, well, how did you spend your Christmases or holidays? And we'd say, well, our uncle used to ride over on his horse, and he'd pour vodka into a grapefruit and then fire shotguns off the back of a horse. That was Christmas, you know.
We don't know why.
We thought that was normal.
yeah. Okay, so you definitely approach it from an unusual standpoint, I guess. And I also like how you talk a lot in the book about how you like to experiment with your writing and your recording. And I was just wondering if you would share like what some of your influences were musically and songwriting and all that from that aspect.
I guess the first music we ever heard was probably gospel music and probably Jimmy Rogers, because our father played lots of Jimmy Rogers music. He played guitar and dobro in a little family band called the Vodosky Brothers. They were a Czechoslovakian family that lived near us. Polka, Western swing. And so we heard that music and a lot of Jimmy Rogers, and then our dad would have friends over on Saturday night. They would drink moonshine and then be sober by Sunday morning. We'd all go to church and sing hymns. So that's
good old Southern Baptist.
That's a nice place to start, a nice mixture of things to start with. And you started off writing commercials too, right, in your early writing years. So did you ever sort of study songwriting or kind of pick apart like how songs were written back then, or no?
I skipped most of my school years and listened to Bob Dylan and people like Tom T. Hall. And so, yeah, I went to school listening to the best songwriters I could find, you know. Yeah. But we didn't really have any formal training, you know. I mean, I took accordion lessons, but that didn't go anywhere.
That was a rough period, the accordion lessons.
Because I think, like, even from, you know, the first song that you had that was a hit, Spiders and Snakes, right? Which they tell the story in the book about it, so I don't want to let that go. You got to read the book. But it was such a well-written song, even from, like, your first hit. So I just wondered, like, how you kind of knew what to do.
You don't really ever know. Even after you've written, you know, 20 hits, you still don't know that you wrote a good one, you know. So, but we had, you know, people to bounce things off of. And you know, when I wrote Old Hippie, I didn't think it was something we could record. I liked it, but I didn't think it was something we should do because I didn't think it would be right for the market. And Howard said, "Oh, we got to cut that. That's great."
Yeah. So sometimes you might have an inkling, and sometimes no clue. Yeah. So your sort of big breakthrough hit, "Let Your Love Flow," was such a huge hit. Why do you think that song resonated so much with people all over the world?
Well, you know, it's hard to say. It was just one of those magical songs, and the story is also in the book how we stumbled across that song. It was a time, even though that song still stands up today, it was timely in that it was perfect for what was going on in the mid-'70s. You know, the love and peace thing was still so, but it was played everywhere. It was literally played in churches, honky-tonks, just everywhere. It had no barriers, and it ended up being a #1 song in like 15 countries. And it really is what enabled us to tour the world, and still do, because it opened up doors internationally for us.
Yeah, I guess it's sort of, it's got a universal message to it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I also liked how towards the end of the book you mentioned that your name Bellamy means beautiful friend,
Yeah.
right? In many European languages.
Yeah, it's an old French
Yeah, there was an
word.
old song called My Bellamy. I don't know if you're not old enough to remember that. The teacup.
The tea set
The tea set.
from
Yeah,
Belgium,
Grip
I
of the
think,
tea
did
set.
that
If
song.
you're
yeah.
old enough, you probably
So
remember
you're
that.
singing about love and you're friendly, so that helps. I was also wondering, like you mentioned that the song was written by Larry Williams,
Right.
right? Did you guys ever have a conversation with him about what inspired the writing of that song?
No, not so much. We were, trying, of course, after that song was such a big hit, looking at his other songs, but a lot of the other songs were very different from that. But that song was found, Let Your Love Flow, was found by the drummer for Neil Diamond, who was a real close friend of ours.
Larry Williams was, we can tell this, we're not giving too much away. But Larry Williams was Neil Diamond's roadie. Might add, he's probably the wealthiest roadie that ever held that position.
And Dennis, the drummer, is the one who told us about it. He said, hey, Larry wrote a song you guys should hear.
Yeah. Wow, so that whole story of how you found the song and how it came to be was just sort of magical.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was.
Yeah. And it was so interesting when you talked about working with the record label, moving to LA, and all the difficulties you had with the label. It was almost like they were the mafia there.
You said that. not me.
But it
You
would
read
seem- it
between the
seemed,
lines, right?
It seems so stereotypical of what you think of as the big bad record labels of that day.
Yeah.
Can you share a little bit with us?
And I
about
think
that?
it was kind of stereotypical because a lot of artists, that you run across or you read books by them. Tommy James wrote a really great book called The Music, The Mob, and Me. And it was one of my favorite personal books.
And he was involved with some of the same characters we were, probably
Yeah.
enough.
But everybody had, and still do, the music business still has some of those characters now, but it was pretty bad back then. There's stories of some of the record labels down in Miami used to buy all their artists a Cadillac, which was a great deal, except that's all they got. That's a Cadillac. They got no money that they made on the records. They just got a Cadillac.
Yeah. And how do you find the business today? I'm sure it's so different, I know, and you guys handle your own business, right? So.
Yeah, we actually don't pay much attention to the record business or the music business as it is now, because it really doesn't pertain to us very much. We do what we do. It's all sort of in our home and our house and our family, and we have our own record label, and we have our own book publishing company and our own reality show, and so it's just kind of a thing.
That way you don't have to deal with any of those. Crazy people.
Well, it's still crazy people
your own crazy
out
people.
there, but yeah, there's us, of course. But
So you guys have toured so much. You've toured all over the world. You've toured Europe like 1 million times. Do you have a favorite place or two that you love to go back to?
We like to go to the South Pacific a lot. We've played down there, and we're still surprised in people that have heard our music, from where we came, a little ranch in Central Florida. It always amazes us that we go around the world and find people from all walks of life that know your music. And we literally one time went to an island called New Caledonia. It's a French protectorate island, and we were out walking the beach, David, his wife, and myself, and walking around. We see these guys literally carving a canoe with wood chisels. They're carving this canoe, and we were walking on the beach, and all of a sudden I heard they started yelling, and one ran in his house. We were looking at one ran in his house and grabbed a CD and ran out on the beach for us to sign it. I mean, I'm sure generations back there were, there were cannibals in their family. I'm sure of that. Right?
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah,
Have you ever had any incidents of like cultural misunderstandings while you've been traveling?
Yeah.
Oh.
Cultural misunderstandings.
I don't know how far you got in the book, but we once played a deal that one of our label's heads was very political and held a political position. We know how politicians are, right? But they had arranged a show in Austria for us where they had children of all religions going to one school. It was a great idea, and we wanted to do it. Went there, and we played this show for all the kids of every denomination. Arabs, Jewish, everybody was at this school. And before that, or after the show, it went over quite well, and we received well, and we started hanging out with this dude that was just very friendly, and we spent the evening with him talking and had dinner with him, and
He was with President Reagan's ambassador, so it was like
we thought it was real.
we thought it was legit.
Later on, I was just watching the news, and they had arrested this guy. We were just sitting watching television, and they had arrested this guy for spying, being a double spy. We were looking at the news, and I said, David, that's the guy we hung out with all night in Austria. And it was this double. So what was it's in the book.
Yeah, I forgot his name, but it's in there. Yeah.
See, the ambassador thought he was legit because he was hanging out with you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, you guys continue to travel all over the world, and you also have written about how you recently try to stay really healthy. So, have you had a lot of challenges traveling so much and staying healthy while you're on tour?
Always.
And how do you approach that? Any tips for
Well,
people?
we have a long ways to go, but we've always actually tried to live health for a long time, even though we tried to kill ourselves in the first part of our life, and we spent the rest of it trying to stay alive. But you try as much, walks and all of that, good food and healthy food, organic stuff. In our reality show now, my daughter plays the role. She's kind of a nutritionist, health coach. So her role is to keep us healthy,
I like that.
But we still,
But she finds Howard at the fried chicken joint, so usually.
But occasionally, you got to have that chicken fried steak or the Popeye's
That's a
chicken.
given.
You just got to go for it. So, yeah, we're not completely healthy, but we always go back and try to counteract any of the bad we did.
But you must have eaten different food all over the world. Do you have
Yes.
some that's your favorite place to eat?
Well, the food in India was really great. In fact, we loved India. It's a very interesting country because it goes from here to here. It's really wild.
Not very good zoning.
No, the zoning is worse than Houston, Texas. But it's such an incredible culture, and the food is just outrageous. It's just really, and the bellhops know all of our songs, so it's check into a hotel and they sing "I Need More of You," and it's like really a lot of fun.
That's awesome. You've collaborated with a lot of people, and you put out a whole album of duets, and I was wondering if you could share some of your favorite collaborations or co-performances perhaps that you've done.
We've done a lot of diverse duets. Some of them are really mainstream, like Dolly Parton. We did "Beautiful Body" with Dolly, and we cut a new song with Willie Nelson called "Guardian Angel." And we've recorded with George Jones and Charlie Daniels and the Oak Ridge Boys and all those, because a lot of those guys we came up with and toured with most of them. But we've also done duets with people like Cliff Richards, Sir Cliff Richards from England, and then we have had album projects. We did a project 4 or 5 years ago with a fellow that a label in Switzerland talked us into recording with him, and we didn't know who he was. And apparently his parents had a restaurant when he was a kid, and they used to play our music all the time. He grew up to be Switzerland's biggest rock star, and decided he wanted to cut an album with us because he knew all our old songs. So we took this project on, and we're like, oh, okay. So we recorded a couple of his songs. He recorded a couple hours. Then he showed up at our house, and we're going to record the rest of them. And we finished it up, became really, really good friends with him, and the thing went double platinum.
Wow.
So it was like a little bonus, a little treat. This guy, and now he's like a real close friend. His name's Gola, and so you never know. Sometimes it's just the weirdest thing. We've cut duets with people in Brazil, pretty much all over the world.
Cut a record with the Bacon Brothers.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
Sure did.
Kevin and Michael.
Yeah, maybe you just have to be open to,
Yeah.
what comes along. Like, did you guys write together as well with Gola?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. We did a second. We ended up doing three projects together because the first one was real successful. So they wanted some more. So we did an album of one live album, and then we did an all new original album called The Mermaid Cowgirl.
Is it country music? Like, what's it like?
It's a real combination.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's.
Not totally country. Oh, I'm not sure what it is.
He's like this crazy Swiss hillbilly. He lives up in the Alps.
He's a skinhead, tattooed. He looks. If you met him in the street, you'd be scared to death. But he's the sweetest guy ever.
He doesn't wear a hat?
No. Well, he does sometimes, but he's just a kind of a Swiss wild man. But he's really, really great guy, and he's a great singer.
I want to ask you guys what to look for in a good hat, because I would not know how to pick one of those out.
Well, yeah, you had to try a lot of them on and just see what looks good on you. It's a very personal thing.
Yeah.
Usually, the older they are, the better. They don't really take personality on it. It's like people. The older they are, the more personality they have.
That's right. That's right. So the duet you did with Dolly Parton was your song "Beautiful Body," and I wanted to know if you would share the story of that song with the folks here.
Howard and I were living in a basement in Hollywood. We shared a basement with Gallagher, the comedian, and he had.
That wasn't a good thing.
No. And he had just invented the Sledge-O-Matic. And, we were trying to keep away from him as much as possible. He has a lot of bad habits. But I used to watch, but we had one old television down there in the corner of that basement. It was Jim Stafford's house. We were all living in there for, I don't know, close to a year, I guess, and when he had his TV show. And there was one old television that I used to watch, You Bet Your Life, which was Groucho Marx's old game show from the 50s. So I used to watch those reruns at night because they were really funny. And one night, Groucho said that line to a tall blonde lady. She came out, and when he saw her, he flicked a cigar, and he said, "If I said you had a beautiful body, would you hold it against me?" And I said, "Man, that would make a really good country song." So that's...
Can you say it like Groucho?
You got to have a cigar.
No, I have to get my cigar to say it like Groucho.
So that inspired the song. But it's a nice song. It's not like raunchy.
Well,
It's clever.
It's clever.
yeah, it's the kind of thing where you could have taken it any way, but I gave it kind of a romantic lilt because that way it wouldn't be, too much of a come on. It would be a romantic come on.
Yeah. That worked well.
Yeah, yeah.
The
Good
line
job.
never has worked for me, though. I gave up on it.
I don't want to know what your pickup line is. That's for a different interview. So in the book, you talk a lot about the drugs that you have used over the years. And I was wondering what you thought about the legalization movement going on
I think
today.
it's wonderful. Yeah.
Is it legal in Florida? I don't know.
Yes.
Medical
well,
marijuana is
medical
legal.
is, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
medical marijuana is legal. Yeah, I think
I think I was the first person to get my license.
Yeah, Howard actually was the first person in Florida to have a medical marijuana license, I think. You know, I think they should be more lenient on marijuana and probably harder on bad drugs. And I think it's just a matter of being logical. Something that hurts people, something that doesn't hurt people, leave them alone.
It literally helped me stop drinking. So, you know, it was...
Howard actually takes...
Now I've almost stopped all of it, but yeah.
He actually takes credit for discovering medical marijuana, you know.
Did you spread information about medical marijuana over the years?
Well, we're starting to now. But, you know, it's an individual thing. You know, it's right for some people and some people it's not, just like drinking.
True. So you guys just also launched, besides a book, you also launched a new TV show. So can you share how that came about and tell us a little bit about the show?
The reality show, well, actually, this kind of goes back to, it actually sort of goes back to the Bacon Brothers as well. We were talking about the Bacon Brothers earlier. We met them out on the road doing some shows together and asked them to do a duet, which they were kind enough to do. And we spent most of the day in a prison in Memphis with them, shooting a video called Guilty of the Crime, a live prison, you know. And they sectioned off a little area for us there. And during the course of that, of the shooting and everything, Kevin walked down to go to the bathroom somewhere and got into one of the live wings of the prison. So everybody started to panic. Okay, Kevin Bacon's lost in the prison somewhere. So...
And they were spitting and throwing things.
Yeah. And I mean, it was no big deal, like, to him, you know. He found out he was in the wrong spot and came back. But everybody, the director, everybody's running around. And so later on, my wife mentioned, she said, you know, we really ought to do a reality show because nobody would believe all this stuff, you know. And that kind of is where the ideas started, but we didn't do anything about it for a good while. And you know, a couple people approached us about the idea, but it was always kind of the way they wanted it done. And we said, well, we're not going to ever do one unless we can just have control of it, and it's the family and like it is. So the Cowboy Channel came on, which we fit into really nicely, and they told us we could kind of do what we wanted to on it. So we started up the Honky Tonk Ranch, and they just showed our second episode, and there's 10 more?
Yeah, 13 episodes.
Yeah, 13 in all this year.
Wow. So can you share a little bit about what kind of shenanigans go on during this series?
A lot of pranking goes on in this, which really actually does. We pranked each other for years, and we grew up that way. Our families always pranked each other, and it's farm ranch humor. I don't know if everybody will get it, but it's kind of how we grew up, and it's a great lifestyle. You know, I wouldn't have changed it. I think when we were young, we thought we were, you know, actually slaves for our family, but growing up and looking back, you know, it was like one of the greatest ways. You miss those days. So a lot of it's flashback, like the book, of how we were raised and how we live now when we're off the road. And we will take some of it on the road eventually, too.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. So we'll get to see what it's really like to go on the road with you guys.
Yeah, we're going to take it out eventually. Right now, we shoot mostly it's kind of like about what goes on at the ranch sort of when we're not on the road, in between times, you know. And like Howard said, it's a lot of pranking. He calls my wife and her girlfriend and asks them to measure a bull scrotum.
That's a common practice on a ranch.
Yeah.
Is it really?
Yes, it is.
So,
It's important.
Because I watched that
It's
episode and I
important
was like,
information.
that's not real.
oh yeah. What's
Well,
not
that's what-
real is that, somebody said,
The way we did it's not real.
somebody said, well, your wife wouldn't dress like that to go to the cow pen. And I said, oh yeah, she would too. That's exactly how she would dress.
So I watched that first episode, and your sons play on it for a minute, and they're fantastic.
Yeah, they're playing a little more on a couple of the other episodes. They have they've done a couple of albums, self-written and played and produced. They're also pretty proficient engineers, and they've got
They're
a new,
bohemians as well.
Yeah, they're complete music bohemians. So they have a new album in the can that's they're going to release in the fall.
And their names are
Jesse and Noah.
Jesse and Noah.
Yeah, they just go by their name, Jesse and Noah. And their new album's called Neon Pike, and it's going to be out probably by fall or so.
Oh, nice. And I read that all your sons play guitar. So did you teach them to play, or
No, they're much better than I. Much better players.
Did you guys have jams at the ranch like you had when you were growing up, where everybody just kind of jumps in and plays? You still do
Yeah.
that?
Now, we don't jam as much now.
Well,
I guess
after 150 shows a year, there's not much jam time.
You're like, we're home, we're not playing.
Yeah. I mean, we still we have an we have a recording studio on the ranch, and so we're working in there all the time. We work constantly in the recording studio.
Yeah, our guitar player, Randy Hebert, who's with us tonight, actually, he's our engineer, guitar player. He's lived at the ranch for almost 20 years or so.
So you got a built-in everything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
me and him and
Self-contained.
Howard produce most all of have since the early to mid '90s produced almost all the stuff. Yeah.
It's interesting because at the end of the book you have this sort of discography that's mind-blowing at how long it is. So when you guys look back at how prolific you were, what do you think about that?
I just hope that discography is right. It drove me nuts because I kept looking at that thing going, there's got to be something we left off of here. So, but it is a big body of work. We're proud of it. It was a lot of fun to do, but I don't think we I don't think we are good at looking back at things. We don't live in the past a lot, because we're always like, okay, well, let's work on the reality show or let's work on a new album or something. But the last couple of years, we have looked back a lot, and especially writing the book. So it's been kind of neat to see some of the stuff that happened and stuff that we did.
Yeah. You talked towards the end about how your music connects your listeners to a memory. And I found that so profound and a lovely thought. But I also made me think about your fans. And do you have any other kind of fun stories about fans that you've met or things that you've heard from fans about your music?
Well, it runs the gamut, really, fan stories, because there's, funny things and there's sad things, and they all, every night people come up and say, oh, I did this to that song, and this when I was dating my husband, this was this, and so it's always connected to something, We've had many funny things happen. We've had guys come up to the autograph table and take off their wooden legs to get autographed, and little things like that. You go, okay, whatever you want. And then, like I say, there's been sad things, and so you just kind of run through that range of emotion with fans, because especially if you're doing something like a one-on-one or an autograph session or something, because you hear a lot of it about your songs and how it affected their life and everything.
And you meet, you never know, if we're touring an area that knows us well, and people, kind of your fan and what they looked at, but every now and then, just the most unusual little characters come up that you would never think were fans. This morning in town here in Manhattan, these two young boys come up, and they were, I don't know, they looked like 14 years old or something, these young kids, and they were freaking out, wanted a picture, and I went like, gee, and they said, "You do our favorite song." Of course, we thought it'd be "Let Your Love Flow" because it'd been heard, or we didn't know if they were country. But it was actually "Redneck Girl," and they're like city boys. We're like, I don't know. Sometimes it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, you don't ever know
you
where
don't know.
fans come from, or
why they're fans.
why they connect to a song somewhere. But we do the same thing. We connect to a song or to an artist that you like.
Okay, I think now we might open it up to the audience to ask some questions. So if you have a question out there, raise your hand, and we
Now
have
we're
a
in real
mic
trouble.
Yeah, don't be shy.
that we're going to bring around. Does anybody have a question?
There you go. Hi, gentlemen. I wanted to ask you about your well-known history about playing for the troops overseas, and was there any particular moment or any particular gig that stands out, without giving away anything in the book, obviously, but any particular gig or particular moment for playing for the servicemen and the servicewomen that sticks out in your memory?
A lot. We have a lot of
Yeah.
memories for.
I guess the most tense place we've ever played was on the DMZ, of course. And we played all the bases in South Korea and then went to the DMZ and did like an unplugged. And we went into the well-known, you see it always on the news, the house where they both share, the north and south share the building. We walk in, but they got particularly aroused the day we were there. They don't like cowboy hats. We found that.
For some reason,
they got really nervous. Thinking
North
we were
Korean
gonna
soldiers
ride a
were-
horse in there and do something weird. I'm not sure what.
Yeah, the North Korean soldiers were coming up to the glass where the little house was and looking at our hats. and,
Freaking
like,
out.
Really,
And everybody was getting excited. We said,
They wanted to know what was under those hats.
I don't know what they thought, but they didn't like it. But that's a really tense place, yeah. And we did an unplugged session up there. The cook, because some of the guys hardly ever leave there. There's certain guys there that are in our military that hardly ever leave there. And one of the cooks had a guitar with about 3 strings on it. And so we took it and did a little session for the guys that are there all the time. So it was pretty special.
On the opposite end of the spectrum, I had a chance to read your book, and I found it hilarious. It's a very funny book.
Thank you.
And I was wondering if you could tell us a story about how magic mushrooms came to your ranch.
Oh, wow.
Well, I think the way we told it in the book is that we had gotten into enough bad things already. We had too many bad habits at that point already. That was before we even had a hit record. And so, we didn't really need one more thing to happen. But there was a professor at the University of Florida who decided to turn loose some spores in the air in Florida. And these spores, when they go into the air, they become, they're airborne. And once they fall into cow manure,
Find a cow patty.
they pop up with magic
They come to
mushrooms.
life.
Now, it sounds like a Grateful Dead story or something, but this is true.
So we actually went up to see Tom Petty, was from Gainesville, and that's where they did all of this.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, we used to go up to the old Mudcrutch farm,
And
when we were kids growing up.
We somehow got into the mushrooms before. I barely remember seeing the band that day, but somehow we ended up bringing all these spores back to our ranch.
Yeah,
And walking over each individual cow pile and thumping them into the piles. And to this day, after every shower, every rain, they pop up.
Oh my gosh.
I dare not go near them these days. But
these days we just look at them.
Don't
we just
tell
look,
anybody where they
we
are.
have a healthy respect for them now.
That's pretty crazy. Was this like an experiment this guy was doing?
Yeah, he was some.
everything was an experiment.
Or he
those
just
days.
wanted some mushrooms?
I think he was. He saw himself as some local Timothy Leary type of character. Y'all may not know Timothy. You're not as old as I am. Oh, you do? Okay. But he just, had some sort of thing he wanted to do, so he turned those spores loose. I mean, most of the ranches and farms in Central Florida have them growing still today.
Wow, that's That's crazy. Do we have another question from the audience? If we don't, then I want to ask you guys another question. I believe I read that you guys did some touring or some work with Petula Clark, and I wanted to ask you about working with her and what that was like.
We didn't actually tour with Petula. What happened is very early on when we moved to L.A., Howard was on the road with Jim Stafford at the time, after Spiders and Snakes came out. The producers we were working with called me up and said, hey, we're going to go to London and produce, we're doing an album on Petula Clark, and we've got extra studio time. So if you'll fly over, you know, get your passport and fly over, we'll cut some of your songs there, you know, with the orchestra in there. So, you know, of course, I wanted to go really bad because I wanted to see, you know, what the deal was and if it was, you know, recording with a new band, a British band, you know. So I flew over there, and as I got in, the producers we worked with weren't the warmest, fuzziest people in the world. And when I got
the same clan that
yeah. When I got there, I was really sick. It was cold, and I got really sick, and I called down to the desk and I said, you know, can I turn the heater on? And they said, well, we don't turn the heat on for another month. You know, this was like September, and the heat comes on in October or something like that. I'm going, well, I don't know what to do. And so I walked downstairs to see if I could get some blankets. And I saw the producers we were working with, they were sitting there with Petula Clark in the lobby bar. So I walked over to them, and they said, well, did you get in town? I said, yeah, you know, I'm here, but I don't feel too good. Petula Clark stands up. She goes, what's wrong, honey? And I said, I got chills, and she says, okay, I'll get you a doctor. She calls the hotel. She makes them get a doctor for me. She takes me to my room. They bundle me up. So that's how I met Petula Clark. She actually took care of me for, I was,
There you go.
what, 21 or something? I was 21 years old or something. Yeah. And she said, if they don't treat you right, give me a call, you know. So that's what, you know, our story about Petula Clark.
That's awesome. Do we have another question out there? No more questions? Oh, come
We
on.
got a lot of answers.
scared
These
them
guys
off.
have like a million. I want you to share then the story about writing Spiders and Snakes, because that's just such a great story.
Howard and I have been out drinking.
Again?
Which wasn't uncommon.
It's so surprising.
We had been right, you know, just down the road from our ranch, really, in Darby, Florida. And we came home. We had a little shack out there that our dad used as kind of a barn to store hay in, and we would go out there and sleep when we didn't want our mom to know we'd been drinking. So we had stowed some sleeping bags out there just for, you know, safety. And we came in from drinking and decided to go out there, and Howard pulled his sleeping bag out and he threw it up on the hay bales and he crawled inside of it. And as he did, a chicken snake about as long as he was came
Out of the bag.
out of that bag, and he came out of the bag right after it. And
Really fast.
He just about made a new hole in the door, in the wall. But that was kind of what gave me the idea, because the old shack that we hung out in there was full of those old brown
That same old
spiders.
shack is our studio today.
That's where our studio is
Our
now.
grandmother once lived there. It's been several things, but it is now our studio.
Did you? I mean, I guess it's been rebuilt since then.
Yeah,
since back in the
yeah.
day, but
There's no snakes in it now.
there's no spiders and snakes
No.
still hanging. I mean, there's probably still snakes on your ranch.
Oh yeah, we still have snakes. Yeah.
No doubt.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your stories. And guys, check out their book, Let Your Love Flow, The Life and Times of the Bellamy Brothers. And we're going to take like a really short break, and then they're going to play some songs for you. So,
Thanks, guys.
thanks, guys.
Yeah, we don't, yeah. There we go.
Check one. Yeah, there we are.
All right, let's go. Sorry, we got to get back online. This is running online on Parade Magazine's Facebook page. So if you want to see it again, you can go to facebook.com Parade Magazine, something like that. Okay, my name's Laura Whitmore. I'm here with Backstory Events, and we've got the Bellamy brothers here to play some songs for you, some classic, awesome songs here live from the cutting room. So please welcome the Bellamy brothers.
Thank you very much. We appreciate that. I think we told how we wrote this song already.
I think so.
From the Groucho Marx
yeah.
line, But also, I wrote this song
Yeah,
on a...
dancing is allowed.
We'll get some sawdust and put it out.
Yeah.
Go ahead, guys.
If I said you have a beautiful body, would you hold it against me? If I swore you were an angel, would you treat me like the devil tonight? If I was dying of thirst, would your flowing love come quench me? If I said you have a beautiful body, would you hold it against me?
We could talk all night about the weather. Tell you about my friends out on the coast.
I could ask a lot of crazy questions, or ask you what I really want to know. If I said you have a beautiful body, would you hold it against me? If I swore you were an angel, would you treat me like the devil tonight? If I was dying of thirst, would your flowing love come quench me? If I said you have a beautiful body, would you hold it against me?
The rain can fall so soft against the window. The sun can shine so bright up in the sky.
But Daddy always told me, don't make small talk.
He said,
Come on out and say what's on your mind. So if I said you have a beautiful body, would you hold it against me? If I swore you were an angel, would you treat me like the devil tonight? If I was dying of thirst, would your flowing love come quench me? If I said you have a beautiful body, would you hold it against me? If I said you have a beautiful body, would you hold it against me? If I swore you were an angel, would you treat me like the devil tonight? If I was dying of thirst, would your flowing love come quench me? If I said you have a beautiful body, would you hold it against me? If I said you have a beautiful body, would you hold it against me? Oh yeah, thank you guys, thank you. All right.
oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Then, of course, we have, turn the track up just a little bit on this one here. That one's down a little bit. Of course, this was the was the big hit we talked about earlier, and about Neil Diamond's roadie writing it. And what else did we not tell on it?
Well, they can read the book.
Oh, okay.
Yes, it's all in the book.
That's good. Good thinking. Make them buy one.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thank you. Go ahead.
There's a reason for the sunshine sky. There's a reason why I'm feeling so high. Must be the season when that love light shines all around us. So let that feeling grab you deep inside. Send you reeling where your love can't hide, and then go stealing through the moonlit nights with your lover. Just let your love flow like a mountain stream, and let your love grow with the smallest of dreams, and let your love show. And you'll know what I mean, it's the season. Let your love fly like a bird on a wing, and let your love bind you to all living things, and let your love shine. And you'll know what I mean, that's the reason. There's a reason for the warm, sweet nights, and there's a reason for the candle lights. Must be the season when those love lights shine all around us. So let that wonder take you into space and lay you under its loving embrace. Just feel the thunder as it warms your face. You can't hold back. Just let your love flow like a mountain stream, and let your love grow with the smallest of dreams, and let your love show. And you'll know what I mean, it's the season. Let your love fly like a bird on a wing, and let your love bind you to all living things, and let your love shine. And you'll know what I mean, that's the reason. Just let your love flow like a mountain stream, and let your love grow with the smallest of dreams, and let your love show. And you'll know what I mean, it's the season. Oh, let your love fly like a bird on a wing, and let your love bind you to all living things, and let your love shine. And you'll know what I mean, that's the reason. Just let your love flow like a mountain stream, and let your love grow.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you very much, guys. Nice to be with you. This is a song, I guess we didn't talk about this one. in
Yeah,
the
well,
interview
except for
part.
the two 14-year-old boys, that was their favorite
Yeah,
song.
that was their favorite song. We just met two new fans this morning in Midtown Manhattan that requested this song. Wish they were here tonight, we'd play it for them. Little tune called Redneck Girl.
A redneck girl likes to cruise in daddy's pickup truck, and a redneck girl plays her hard when she's down on her luck.
Living for Friday afternoon. I'm gonna show one old boy that
A weekend moon,
and I pray that someday I will find me a redneck girl. A redneck girl likes to stay out all night long. She makes sweet rock and roll waiting on that moment of surrender. Her hands are callous, but her heart is tender. And I pray that someday I will find me a redneck girl. Yeah, give 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 me a redneck girl. Yeah, redneck girl got her name on the back of her belt. She got a kiss on her lips for a man and no one else. And the coyotes howling out on the prairie. First come love, and then come marriage. And I pray that someday I will find me a redneck girl. Yeah, give me a redneck girl. Yeah, give me a redneck girl. You got to give me a redneck girl. Hey, give me a redneck girl. All right. Give me a redneck girl. Yeah, give me.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for coming. It's the Bellamy Brothers. Check out their new book, Let Your Love Flow, The Life and Times of the Bellamy Brothers, and their new show, Honky Tonk Ranch, on the Cowboy Network, right?
Channel, yeah.
The Cowboy Channel. All right. Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you.
Have a good night. Thank you.
Hey, good night, everybody.